Hi, this is Todd again with This Is How You Do It. We're going to do a one-pan meal here. It's going to be sausage and squash. It kind of comes out like a sweet potato dish. We're going to use brown sugar. The squash and the sausage, we're going to fry the sausage, so we're not going to have to add butter to it because we're going to have all the grease from the sausage. Everyone's always afraid of these big acorn squash because they're so hard to cut. Word of advice is use a really big knife so you got some leverage. I'm going to start by getting my pan warm here to do the sausage because we need the grease off that. And we're going to use a really big knife because I don't want the thing to roll on me. I have a lot more control with a big one. And the easiest way that I've found to do this is if you cut on these lips, you'll get like little banana shaped pieces. So first you find the big one, go right down the middle. It should come out. Okay, so now we got to peel out the seeds in there. It smells like a pumpkin when you open them. Great way to get kids to eat the squash too, because my kids love this dish. And we're just going to peel all that out. Again, you can use whatever you want to peel this out, but a big spoon seems to work the best. Soup spoon. And it doesn't have to be perfect, so we're going to do a little more cleaning here once we get to the next part. Get all this off the board. Okay. Got the little stem off there because it's hard to cut through. So now we're going to continue cutting them down these ridges. Might go to the other side to see this, because I'm just going to put the knife on the ridge. Cut right down the way it looks, so just find those. Once you do this, you can peel it like a potato, because that skin's really thick, like a waxy skin. So now we got them all cut up. My pan's getting nice and warm, so I'm going to go ahead and put my sausage in. I'm going to use a different knife because it's meat and I don't want to use a cutting board on it. And we like our sausage really smashed up when we cook it, so we're going to use this cool little hamburger smashing tool we got here. And it looks like I'm using a pound of sausage to acorn squash. We sometimes do 2 acorn squashes with that much, just depends how much you like of the sausage. So I'm doing a pound of sausage to 1 large acorn squash to probably a quarter cup to a third a cup of brown sugar and a little bit of water to help steam it. We'll cover that. So now that the sausage is starting to go, we'll go back to the squash. So to get this off, again, it's a real hard skin. So we're going to use a potato peeler to get all that off. Okay, so I'm just finishing up here. Almost done. Kind of like peeling sweet potatoes, it's a lot harder to handle because of the wedge shape of each one. So whatever you're comfortable with holding it. I like pulling it towards me on these because it's really hard. Okay, now that part I told you about scoop with the spoon, how it's all rough here. If you leave that on there, you're going to get kind of a mushy square, so we want to make sure they're nice and clean. I'm going to use my potato peeler and get it so it's nice and smooth. That way it cooks the rest of the same as the rest of it. Because that mush stuff will get in and mix and make it kind of tacky. And just keep going through and do all those. Sometimes you get a good pull and you get it all at once, but you go over it a couple times. Okay. So we got all that out of there. Let me clean this off real quick. Got my assistant stirring up my sausage there. Now you can add salt and pepper to this if you wanted, and garlic. Just use your favorite sausage, breakfast sausage. We're using a spicy or a mild spicy, so we're not going to add any pepper because it's already going to be pretty flavorful. And I think that's same with the salt. We're not going to add but maybe a pinch of salt to the top of the squash when we put it in. Just give it a good flip. You can see this one has a lot of pepper in it. If you like sage sausage, that's good to use too. You don't eat much of the sage sausage unless we make some other dish. So now the next part that's really important when you get to all these wedges, you want them to cook all at the same time. So you don't want really big pieces, really small pieces. So try getting them, like if you're going to go with that size, keep them all about that size. And then if it gets bigger, I'm going thinner so that it still cooks the same as that big as the rest of them. So again, they're not all the exact same size. I'm trying to keep them kind of consistent. If they're big and round, then they're nice and thin. If they're square, then they kind of get a little bit chunkier. So once the sausage is all cooked, and it is, I got plenty of grease in there. We're going to dump the potatoes on it, or the squash on it. I guess I'll put a little salt on the top of the potatoes. It just helps release some of the flavor on there. And we're going to let those sear. We're going to flip them over so they get to the bottom. If you can't flip, you might want a bigger pan so you can stir. So now that they're cooking nice, we're going to put a lid on that and we'll come back to it here in a minute. Okay, since I realize a lot of people aren't going to be able to flip, I give it to a much bigger pan so we can use, a tool to do this. And it's, a little easier to manage. Got all this in here, and one thing I noticed when I put this all in here, there's not a lot of grease in that sausage. So at this point you have a couple options. If you got a real lean sausage, I'm going to add some butter to that just like I would if it was sweet potato. So I'm going to throw some butter in there, and we're going to keep letting it simmer. I'm probably going to put about a quarter cup of butter in there because I need it to mix with the sugar to make the syrup. So I'm going to put a quarter cup of butter in there, and I'll come back to you. Okay, so we got about a quarter cup of butter, nice little scoop there. This is going to help it make that syrup that we need from the brown sugar, and it's going to help sear these pieces of squash up here so they get a little color to them without burning them. So just once these start cooking, you're not going to want to play with them too much because they will get all mushy on you. Right now they're really hard, so I'm just making sure that they're getting coated well. And once they start cooking, we're only going to want to play with them like once or twice to stir them. That's about it, because like I said, the more you play with them, you'll end up with a big pile of mush in your pan. So it looks nice and mixed in again. So we're going to let that cook. I'll go to the time here in a minute when I check it back and see how they look. Okay, so we've been cooking about 5 minutes without touching it on a medium-low heat. Now, like I said, we're trying to get them a little color to them and let them get started. So we're going to check them out here. Having the lid on catches all that steam. I guess we're going to call this dish sausage squash because it is basically what it is, and it's really good. So now, still didn't get any color to it. Maybe have to turn it up a little bit. We're going to turn it up and try browning them just a little bit just to get some flavor on them. Maybe we'll go all the way up and get them nice and hot here to get some color. Okay, now that it's on high and we're doing a fast browning, you got to stay with that dish. You can't walk away because you can burn it real quick. So we're going to stay here and just let it brown and watch it. If you can't flip again, you can kind of just check your squash down there, see if they're browning up. Like I said, we don't want to play with them too much. Okay, That was about 2 or 3 minutes. You can start to see the browning going on, so we're going to let this one go again about 2 or 3 minutes on pretty much high at this point. Medium high. So you can see them browning out, looking nice. They're actually getting brown real quick now. I'm having to really watch it so I don't burn them. Now you can see these are, going to be fast forwarding. You can see these are still hard, so they still got to cook with the, when we put the brown sugar and water on it and it makes a syrup, it's going to heat it up way over the 212. It'll probably be at 300 degrees. So it cooks it pretty quick once it gets that hot. You just got to remember that that's a hot candy syrup you're making. It will be extremely hot if you get it on your skin. It will be a 3rd degree burn, so be very careful when you're using sugars in your dishes. Okay, now we got some good color. That's how we fried them. So we're going to put about a 1/4 cup of brown sugar in there. And this actually came out to look a lot more than what I thought it was going to make, so let's do about a 1/2 cup of brown sugar. That squash was bigger than I thought. And we're going to put some water in there. That's going to help with the steaming and give the brown sugar something to mix to. I'm doing about a 1/4 cup of water. For now, we can always add more. So I'm going to kind of mix that in. You can use real dark brown sugar too. It makes it just really dark, but it's just got more molasses in it. Again, I'm trying not to damage the squash doing that. Okay, so now we're going to cover it again. I'm going to probably let it cook at a simmer, so we're going to go down to like medium low here, and we're going to just cover it and let it cook maybe 10 minutes. We'll come back and check it, and if it looks good, we'll just start cooking down the sauce in there. Okay, now that they should be fairly steamed, they should be about halfway done now. The other half that's going to happen is we're going to let this without a lid cook down, but we have to stir this, so this is where you got to be real careful, because now these are getting, you can see where they're getting a little mushy on the edges, and if you keep playing with them, they will just turn into a pile. So I'm going to flip mine, but if you can use something to get underneath there and real gently flip them, that'd be real good. So all I'm doing is bringing the ones from the bottom to the top, because they've already been cooking on in the liquid. So now we're just going to let that go with no lid, so the steam comes out and it should turn into a sauce, hopefully in about 10 minutes, but we got to keep checking on it every couple of minutes to make sure we don't run out of liquid and burn it. So we'll keep checking that. Okay, we're back to it. Looks like it's been cooking down for a few minutes now. I've flipped it once to make sure that it didn't burn in there. All that butter is waiting for some more goodness, and I tasted a little bit more brown sugar, so we're going to put some more in for our liking. It'll also help that butter candy around there. That's probably another 1/3, maybe 1/4 cup, maybe a little less. That's going to kind of pull it all together here right at the end. You'll get some real good candy on there. Kids love it because it does taste like, it's kind of like putting sausage patty in syrup. But then they get the good squash with it, which tastes just like it. So we're all done. Now keep in mind that is about, I'm going to remove it from the heat so it doesn't keep cooking. Probably about 300 degrees because of all the sugar in there. So you want to let that cool before you give it to your kids. They will burn themselves. So let it cool off a little bit before you really handle it. Give it a taste test yourself before you do give it to the kids. So hope you enjoy it. Leave some comments. Make sure you subscribe. I'll come up with some more good ideas for you guys to do at home. Thank you very much.